Yo, coming to you live from World Championship in San Jose. Welcome to the Living Legends podcast.
Rise Above, great card.
Yeah. Well,
Rise Above.
yeah.
The tech that I used Rise Above for when I first started playing was because I was playing your Redliner Azalea deck, you use that to put arrows back on top.
Oh yeah,
Seek Horizon is the real tech there, where you Seek Horizon for 4 with Go Again, putting like a Red and Ledger back on top, and then dominating your Red and Ledger and shooting at them. Yeah, that's the tech. I actually had someone recently say that they thought New Horizon or Seek Horizon was like one of the worst cards in the game, and I'm like, no,
no,
it's not even close to like Rested Relic and Aether Sink or whatever the hell that stupid thing is.
Oh god, yeah, the item.
Yeah, that's so bad.
Yeah, Aether Sink. It gives you the ability sometimes to get Barrier 2.
It's someone was arguing with me on Twitter. I think it was one of the guys who works on Talishar, that they think Aether Sink is like a legit sideboard option against Kano, because it's like, oh, you can get AB2 on like Aether Wildfire turns, and I was like, yeah, but they can respond to you. They can respond to you removing it to get the AB2. Sure, they don't get the maximum value out of whatever, but they can still respond to you. And then you have to pay another resource to put the counter back on. And the card itself already costs a resource. The card is so bad. And it's a yellow. So that's the other thing on top of it. It's not even a blue. It's a freaking yellow, which means that if it's in your hand and you want it to prevent arcane damage, it's only preventing 2, not even 3. So it's anyway. I hate that
trash
card.
tier.
I hate that card. I think it's legit one of the worst in the entire game.
Well, that's a separate list for another day. Welcome to the Living Legends podcast.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Living Legends podcast. That's going to be
been here the whole time.
I am the host today. My name is Kel, and welcome to the Living Legends podcast, where we talk about all aspects of the Flesh and Blood trading card game. Today, we're going to be complaining. Which is actually fairly rare for us. In a strange turn of events, we're going to be complaining about our saltiest cards. And joining me for that discussion is Bill from Spike Feeder's Fab.
How's it going, everybody? This is going to be really funny. Not necessarily the cards. Well, I mean, it is basically just the cards that we don't want to see the most.
Yeah, more or less.
And I think all of these are very valid. I don't think we're going to have a lot of dissenting opinions in the comments here.
No.
But I mean, if we're being unfair about a card, let us know. But yeah, this is going to be a good one.
Also, this is just for fun. And so if you really love one of the cards on this list, which you might, then that's cool. I'm sure there's some cards on here that aren't on my list that I really like. So we're just talking about salty cards. And then also, we have Azz from Go Again Gaming. He's over here.
Hello, everybody. But yeah, I mean, our lists, they're not in any particular order. And I think we're drawing from our experiences when playing against certain decks. So everyone's lists are going to be slightly different. You know, whoever's watching this now in the future, leave a comment as well as to what your saltiest card is if we've missed one. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot of relation to what we're about to say. Yeah,
I think so. I think there's some cards on here that are almost everyone can agree with. That's
absolutely
pretty salt-inducing. But before we start with that, let's go over our week in Flesh and Blood. While you guys think about yours, I'm going to go over mine real quick because it is incredibly short, because I have not done much in regards to Flesh and Blood this week. I put out a video today talking about some old games and the starter product that they do, and how I think that new games can learn from them. And I did that because I've been a little bit burnt out on Flesh and Blood over the holiday season, because I basically live and breathe card games, and Flesh and Blood's my favorite game, so I think about it and do it a lot. So I took a little break, look at other card games like Legend of the Five Rings and some other old and otherwise canceled games from the days of yore. But
it's nice to do that, though, isn't it? It's nice to it's nice to have other interests and other sort of hobbies outside of just the game. Because if you just play Flesh and Blood only, it's you can get burnt out, and then you're like, oh, what the hell do I do now, sort of thing. So it's nice that you've got more strings, and that's what your channel's all about, I guess, isn't it? Delving into the past and stuff, and having a look at the archives of TCGs.
Yeah, I mean, I just love card games in general, and I think
Yeah.
we can learn a lot from the failures and successes of the past. And
Yeah,
there's
exactly,
some card games that used to exist that did some incredibly good things, and also stumbled incredibly as well. And I think we can learn from both of those. So the topic of the recent video was like learning from like past failures, specifically in regards to starter product. And I did frame it through the perspective of like a Flesh and Blood player, right? Because I think Flesh and Blood and other new card games or modern card games could learn a lot. So yeah, if you'd like to check out that video, go for it. It's mostly about starter product and what like Flesh and Blood and other card games could do. Because I think currently we have what I would call like the bare bones, almost like minimum qualifiers for like a starter product, and I think folks could do more. Though there's something to be said for like being a little bit bare bones with like the blitz decks. They're cheap, they're relatively small, they don't take up a lot of space, but also they don't have a lot of flourish. Like they don't have a little how to play booklet or they don't come with their own little box or anything. So
it's going to be interesting to see like if that product in Outsiders, like all the 6-bit decks, have any extras in it, because when we had the Tales of Aria ones, which were the last ones, weren't they? No, the Uprising ones.
We had Uprising,
even those didn't have rule books in there. They had like a little card that said how to play or something, like this style of the deck. Like for fight, it was just 0 cost go again attacks or aggro, whatever it was, and it said like play style easy, didn't it, or play style hard, like the old MTG decks used to say experience level or beginner level.
Yeah, I
remember
those
little dots on them.
Those.
That's an intermediate deck. Yeah. I'm an intermediate player.
The Uprising decks did have a QR code on the back that you could scan that would take you to like a how to play thing, I think. But it's interesting. The Flesh and Blood has been minimizing it more and more, because the original starter decks, the hero decks for Welcome to Wraith, did have little booklets in them. And that's kind of how I learned to play, is through those little booklets and through like various other online tutorials. I think there's something to be said for having those little booklets. I know it probably costs a lot more money to manufacture and therefore makes the price of the decks go up, but I think there's something to be said for a new player having a little reference thing where you're like, oh, I forgot that rule, grab the little booklet, look it up. Like,
yeah,
I think there's something to be said for that, rather than like, oh, what did that YouTuber say? Go look up the YouTube video again and try to scroll through the 10-minute video to try to find the rule or whatever. Anyway,
when we first started getting into the game, like us at the Spike Feeders, Elliot bought 2 starter decks, and just based off of the characters on the front, how much they resonated with those, because it was him and his girlfriend, and ended up picking up Prism and Levia. But first, like even before they could do anything, Elliot ended up like calling me and was like, hey, can you come over and teach us how to play this game? Because there was just nothing in the deck to really do anything, and there wasn't even really any content at that time for like just a quick and easy like set up and play sort of thing. The closest I think was the professor may have had a video out.
There are currently 2 that I think are really good, and one of them is one that I actually learned how to play on. He was fast, man. His DM Armada has, in my opinion, the original good how to play Flesh and Blood video. He put that video out maybe like weeks after the game launched, weeks after like Welcome to Wraith came out originally, because I learned to play like a couple weeks after Welcome to Wraith came out. And what I do is when I learn a new game with my partner and she's going to play with me, I try to find a YouTube video that we can both watch, and I'll just put the video up and we'll both watch it, and then we'll play. And that's what I did. It was DM Armada's video. So shout out to DM Armada. He's a great friend. And then also the Professors is the other video. But I want to say Professors is pretty good. But it doesn't go into a lot of detail, right? Yeah. And it doesn't talk about arcane damage. Neither of them do, to be honest. Mostly because the Professor's is very streamlined, and Dear Marmada's was made before arcane damage even existed. So there's that.
It was a simpler time. It was maybe a better time, as we're going to be seeing with our saltiest cards list in a second here.
Yeah, there may be some arcane damage things on here. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. But hopefully when we visit Outsiders, it's going to be just physical, no arcane, back to the old days of just fisticuffs. Every card can block and all that good stuff. So
I don't expect to see arcane.
No.
How about your week in Flesh and Blood? We'll go in the same order that I introduced. Let's start with Bill.
My week was actually pretty interesting. I didn't get up to a whole heck of a lot, but I did judge our ProQuest, our local ProQuest.
Yeah.
Which was actually just like a really good time. It was much quicker than the last one. I definitely went into it expecting to be like basically a full work day, because that's kind of what it was the last time. If I remember correctly, I think we got there at I think it started at noon, and I'm pretty sure when we left it was like 9:30 or 10 o'clock. It was a long day. This one we had slightly fewer people. It was only it was 4 rounds, then cut to top 4, because we only had 11 participants. I think the last one we had 18. So it was a cut to top 8 instead. And then that just kind of dragged things on a bit. But yeah, I was really happy. We ended up leaving at I think 5. So it was still a reasonably long day, but not nearly as long as I was anticipating. And then immediately the day after, thanks to some discussion I was having with some locals at the ProQuest, I decided to put together Tiger Benji.
Nice.
And play in our played in our Monday night armory. And it was interesting. I don't think I understand quite how the deck is supposed to play yet. I went 2-2, and the games that I won, I just sort of at some point realized that I had won. I was just attacking, I was just playing cards, whatever. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to play this thing. And they're like, well, I can't block that, and I'm dead. And I was like, what?
Yeah, Tiger Benji. So you basically give up the ability to tutor for things in exchange for unblockability on almost all of your tiger attacks, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and then you also got access to Spring Tidings, which with the Crouching Tigers can get pretty spicy.
Crouching Tiger, Spring Tidings.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. It was a good time. I might give it a couple more tries, or I might just try to shift it to Tiger Katsu, because I feel like just having things at the ready is probably more impactful. As much as I do love Benji, and now that I have the deck together as well, if something really cool comes for Benji and Outsiders, then I'm ready to pivot. But yeah, it was basically just that. It was all good experiences for me.
Nice. And speaking of what I think are good experiences, let's go to Azz, because I think Azz had a very eventful week in Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, so I was at so last time we did the podcast, you would have seen that I was in a hotel room. Not anymore. So that was for Battle Hardened Leeds, which I played in. Played Azalea, of course. The vlog is on the channel on Go Again Gaming as well, so you can have a look at the shenanigans I got up to there, as well as how the UK sort of run things. Living Realms, great store, the flagship UK store at this point, up north in the UK. But yeah, they did a great job of organising it. It's a shout out to their team if you're watching this. I know some of you probably do. But yeah, I took Azalea to the event, went 3-5. I played all 8 rounds of the CC. And it was ridiculous because it was so varied. The matchups were so varied. I wasn't expecting it at all. The first 2 games I played were both against Guardian, and I was just like, bloody hell, here we go. I had to sideboard straight away, which threw me off big time because I put in Dreadball when I've been practicing with Death Dealer, and suddenly I made errors, so I thought I could draw cards, and I was like, oh no, I put that there because of Death Dealer, but I can't access it because I've got Dreadball now. Dreadball did cause some issues to the Guardians, but it just wasn't enough, unfortunately. It doesn't go burr like Death Dealer does, and so sadly.
Yeah.
but yeah, the 3 wins I got was against an Icelander, a Lexi, and an Azalea mirror match on the bottom tables, which was good fun. So yeah, I definitely knew that matchup in and out.
Beating up all the other Rangers.
Yeah, beating up all the other Rangers. But yeah, it was a great time. Yeah, as I said, it's the first sort of competitive event I've been to. And I was speaking about this to Tommy from Fresh and Buds, that actually appeared on his podcast this week as well. It just goes to show that you can play as many games of Talishar, you can play as many webcam games as you like, but when you get to the competitive level events and you're sat, in front of someone who's obviously there to win, it's completely different, and you can make mistakes. You get sort of pressured to a certain degree, and it's just completely different experience. But it's awesome because there's a lot of big learning curve as well. So yeah, really, really enjoyed it. And yeah, the vlog does show that. I had some drinks and drinking all sorts of stuff as well on that. But yeah, so I had a great time this week.
Nice, awesome. I agree with the Talishar thing too. I made a tweet a little while ago. It was kind of in jest, but it was something along the lines of a lot of the folks who are just grinding on Talishar are gonna have a rude awakening when they go to their very first calling event or higher, when they play against people who are actually legit good at the game instead of some rando who is just casually playing on Talishar and doesn't care.
That's right.
It's like night and day.
Yeah, it goes to show. Yeah, exactly. And it's people that know me know that I'm a filthy casual, and obviously I play games with friends and stuff online and that, and I'm not too competitive. So I got 3 wins, out of 8 games, so I'm happy with that to a certain degree.
Hey,
but I thought I was.
You crushed 3 people's dreams by killing them with Azalea.
Exactly, yeah, and that's the experience you go for as an Azalea player. You go there to be so the opponents they're thinking all day about their loss, how on earth did I lose against Azalea? What happened?
How many times?
I was going to prep for the Azalea matchup, but then I realized I shouldn't do that because why would I do that?
Exactly.
How many times did your opponents have to take a look at Azalea and be like, "What does she do?"
Yeah, so obviously the Azalea mirror was okay, but the rest of them were they didn't really know what was going on with Azalea, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great experience nonetheless, and I'll probably be back there again at some point for the next big UK thing. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so funny.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm not able to make it to a lot of events these days, but that's some of the most fun parts of Flesh and Blood. I don't know, it's a little overwrought, but I mean that's kind of the point of the game, though, right? To get together, play in the Flesh and Blood, all that kind of good stuff.
It is, yeah.
And that's when the game really shines. Not to disparage folks who play on Talishar or whatever, but it truly is much better in person.
It's still a totally reasonable way to play the game, but
yeah, sure.
But yeah, I don't know. The game just to me flows better in person. I don't know what it is specifically about it, but
it's just the back and forth between 2 players, isn't it? Every decision point counts. Every card can be used modally to a certain degree, as long as we're not talking about the bloody arcane damage, which I'm sure we'll get to.
Or oddly enough, the gems really cannot be played modally either. They're all just
all the gems.
Yeah,
that's right. All the instants, but hey ho. But yeah, it's definitely a good experience all round.
So let's get on to not good experience. Let's get on to our top 5 saltiest cards. Now, if you have watched any of our top 5 lists before here on the Living Legends podcast, you'll know that we each have our own top 5 list. And what we'll do is one person will present a card, and then we'll kind of go around and each present a card kind of in turn. So you, as the listener, will see 15 cards, but each of us have our own top 5. And we've made sure not to overlap the lists, but we do probably have opinions on each other's picks because some of these cards are pretty ubiquitous, egregious, and, salt-inducing. So, I guess as the host, I will start. And I'm going to start with a card that I simultaneously really love and also find incredibly salt-inducing, especially when I played against it. And I used to play against it a lot. And this is a card that I played against my good buddy, Travis, who is the owner of Fab Foundry, also owner of a local game store here, Discs and Dice. And he also really, really likes Azalea. I'm not sure what his current hero is, but Azalea was his old staple. And my old staple back in the day actually was Viserai. I really liked an OTK Viserai deck. And the card that made me the saltiest was Feign Death. So this is, my first pick is Feign Death. I really like this card, by the way. I think this card's cool. I like playing it in my Ranger decks, but also it is super salt-inducing because what would happen is that I would have a big turn and then, or I'd amass a lot of rune chance and then try to win on a really big turn. And then he would immediately take the rune chant damage, prevent some, take at least one rune chant damage, and then Feign Death my 11 attack dominated Arcanite Ascendancy. And I would be like, God, oh man. And so if you didn't know, Feign Death is a Ranger instant. It is a yellow pitch card, and you can only play it if you have taken damage this turn, and then it prevents the next damage that you deal or take, basically. I don't have the card in front of me right now. I should probably pull it up, but that's essentially what it does. So you have to take damage in order to be able to prevent the next damage. So it is fairly balanced like that. You can't just prevent a crippling crush out of nowhere.
But imagine that.
But it's still very salt-inducing for me because it's like the one card at the time that could prevent this, right? It's like 11 dominate unless you have some other shenanigans going on, and I would usually wait until it was a good time, nothing in arsenal, so they can do defense reaction shenanigans. Like I wanted to make sure it was a good time. That's how it is. That's how it is.
Well, yeah, as we were saying earlier, this list is about experiences, and you remember that one bloody time when you got done by Feign Death, and if you look at it, the value that you can get from Feign Death is ridiculous. Especially if you're playing against Kano, for instance, that does Aether Wildfire for. We'll mention that card, that's for sure.
Yeah, we'll talk about Kano. We'll definitely talk about Kano. Yeah.
If you get burnt by that once, and then they come in with a Blazing Aether for like 29 damage, you can essentially just counterspell that with a Feign Death.
Yeah.
So in certain matchups, it's absolutely ridiculously good. But the lines that need to be fulfilled in order for you to play it is either feast or famine. Unfortunately, isn't it? That's the thing. Definitely.
Yep. And for me, it was because I played against Travis a lot. And so I played against this card a lot. And he always, it's one of those situations where they always seem to have it, right? Like,
yeah.
So that is my first pick. Let's go in reverse order this time. And let's go to Azz next. And
switching it up.
Yeah.
Switching it up. And it's a fairly good segue as well, because I'm going to mention the ones that are in that I was just explaining there. So Aether Wildfire and or Blazing Aether. So basically the Kano combo turn where they play Aether Wildfire, which is a 2-cost wizard action, deals 4 arcane damage. And then if Aether Wildfire is played during an opponent's turn, which normally it is, right? Because you Kano off the top. Action card effects that deal arcane damage instead deal that much arcane damage plus X, where X is the damage dealt by Aether Wildfire. So this card essentially says you need to prevent 4 damage somehow, otherwise I'm just going to combo off and kill you with this Kano Storm strategy that then comes in with the second card on this sort of joint list, which is the Blazing Aether, which is the 0-cost attack that deals X damage, where X is the amount of arcane damage you've already dealt this turn. So yeah, we've all been killed by this combo multiple times. I'm sure a lot of the people that in the audience, people that are listening to this now in the future, would have also been killed by this Kano combo off turn. And yeah, it's just a shame because you could even be attacking for lethal, and they can just Kano off the top and do all of this garbage, and suddenly you're dead when you're the one attacking. So. Yeah, it's a horrible window that you have to deal with, and you have to sit through as they sift through their deck and find their cards and slowly just burn you alive.
I've mentioned this story before, but I have a quick little anecdote. At Grand Prix, calling Las Vegas, Team Blitz, me, DM Armada, and Jim from FAB TCG Cards on a team. Round 1, I get paired against Kano. I'm playing Lexi. He kills me turn 1. And this isn't me like being like, okay, I'll take it all. Oops. Like, this is me doing my best to prevent all of the damage, and he still kills me turn 1.
Yeah.
And it was
And that
impressive.
was
He had a
before
long
Wildfire.
he had a long line of cards out. No, Wildfire was out. This was
already?
This was the same weekend as the Uprising world premiere. So this was the world premiere.
Oh,
weekend.
okay. I'm getting my events mixed up then.
But still, like, it was nuts. And he had this long, huge thing. I really should have taken a video of it or something, because he played like multiple tomes of Aetherwind and other such tomes, and drew so many cards and played so many things. And he just killed me turn 1. Like, I couldn't do anything. I did everything I could. The only thing that I could have done better is put more freaking what do you call it? Spell Void in my equipment, I guess. That's the only way I could have prevented more damage, is just like drawn more blues, but I'm playing Lexi, so there's not that many blues. There's a little bit, but
yeah.
Oh, and also my round, we ended up winning. I lost, but my 2 teammates won, so we actually won that. Did we win that round? I think we won that round.
Nice.
And then we paired up against Tyler Horsepool's team, and eventually, this was like a couple days. We were doing good. A couple rounds later, and then I also got matched against that team's Kano player, and that Kano player killed me on like turn 2 or 3. So yeah. I don't have a great record against Kano as Lexi. And then also, I play against DM Armada a lot, and he loves Kano, so I played against him playing Kano a lot. And as said, most of the times I die is when I have lethal, and I'm like, I attack you. And then he's like, I have responses, and I'm like, okay, am I dead? Like that? Am I dead, or are you dead? Who's dead here? Someone's gonna die.
The frustrating thing is, as well, is like Kano players, they lead you into that position thinking you are going to win, because they're basically just assembling the combo the entire game. You're leaking damage. You're thinking, oh, right, yeah, I'm getting somewhere now. They're just like playing energy potions or what have you. But then they're on 2 life, and suddenly you're coming in for lethal, and that's when they kill you, when they're on 2 life, and you're about to kill them. They've already assembled all their pieces. They got Storm Striders on board, which I'm sure Bill can go into in a moment. But yeah, it's not interactive. It's for them, they're like doing all this combo stuff, and that's how they enjoy the game. Fair enough, but yeah, it's just those windows where you can't interact or do anything.
The most you can do is like Arcane Barrier, or use another card that I'll talk about a little bit later. Which actually has become like the bane of a lot of wizards. So I know a lot of wizard players were pretty salty about one of the cards on my list, but But
with that, I'll throw it over to Bill, who I just realised, actually, I'm not sure if you had this in your list or not, actually, but I'm sure we can speak about it anyway.
Yeah, no, I was originally going to be talking about Storm Striders, but because Az was already going to be talking about Blazing Ether and Ether Wildfire, like it's all part of the same experience, like you don't normally die to an Ether Wildfire Blazing Ether combo without the Storm Striders being there.
Exactly.
So it's just all the same package.
Storm Striders by themselves, it's a card that kind of break some of the fundamentals of the game. In that it essentially gives you an extra turn on the turn that you are going to win, right? Because like
for one resource.
So you have your turn, you have your normal turn, and then you pass your opponent, drawing a new hand, and then take another turn with your Storm Striders and kill them. That's basically how it works. You basically take 2 turns in a row to win.
It's crazy.
Not saying it's like unbalanced or anything, but it can be a little salt-inducing, for sure.
Definitely.
Yes, it really can.
Which of mine do I want to talk about first? Let's talk about the one that I think is maybe of this list the least salt-inducing for me, while still being salt-inducing.
Okay.
So you're both familiar with attack reactions, of course.
Oh yeah. I have
There
played an
is
assassin or two.
there is one attack reaction above all that most of the time when it's being played, it is getting me. It is like like they play it. I it's like they probably have this, but I have to play as if they don't because otherwise I'm going to lose. And I block some amount, and then they go, oh, by the way, from Arsenal, pummel.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There are like the 5 cards that I picked are all cards where I look at them and I just kind of have that like resigned sigh where it's like, okay, like either I have to really reevaluate my game plan or I'm just dead, like I'm just losing here. And pummel, I mean, obviously has been around for the entirety of the game, and it doesn't get played quite as much as I think it maybe used to. But even with that in mind, the times that it does get played, specifically against me, it's doing multiple things, because not only is it pumping something up enough to probably get over your blocks and trigger whatever on hits the attack itself has, because there are lots of very good on hits now in the game. But it's actually one that combos with another card that's on my list. Speaking of just on hits in general, but it also makes you discard a card. So if you've used, you want to block this big attack for like 3 cards from your hand, and you're keeping 1 back because you're like, okay, I can do something with this card on my turn. I can still have an impactful turn. And then they pummel you and you lose that card.
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
I love pummel. It is a super salt-inducing card, but I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, like I love it when I get to use it to good effect, but a lot of the decks that I play don't really use like expensive attacks, so I just don't really. I don't usually have the opportunity to play it.
I think the classic salt line is Command and Conquer Red Pummel. And just like blow up their arsenal and rip a card from their hand.
Yeah,
for like
for
it's
10.
For 10. Yeah, it's so good. It's so nasty.
I don't mind it as a card. Obviously, like it just whenever it's played against me, it's always to its greatest effect, and that hurts.
Oh my
me
god,
deeply.
I can think of other situations too. Like these are all classic salt-inducing things that are just like, well, guess I'm dead. Is like
dead. Yep.
Like Bravo, Crippling Crush, Pummel. Like, just rip 3 cards out of your hand. No big deal.
Cool.
Like,
just take my hand away and guess I'll just pass without even arsenaling. Just pass straight back to you then.
Yep,
Brilliant.
And it's your turn again.
And then they do it again after that. It's just like, fuck's sake.
Yeah.
An additional time. You thought you were safe.
I don't remember if it was a Crippling Crush Pummel or if he did Thump Pummel. But I played against Zach Bunn from Team Covenant in like the Clash thing that was going on. And I was playing little old me was playing a little Arachne who has like no good specializations or anything, and Zach was playing freaking Bravo who has both Showtime and Crippling Crush, and he did hit me with a Crippling Crush, and he also I think it was Thump Pummel, where he got me with like a double discard off of a Thump Pummel. But
yeah, I mean, I was thinking of Thump the other day, because obviously if you do pummel it, it becomes a mini crippling, doesn't it? Essentially,
yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And basically anything that you Terrace under as well.
I was like, hell, you can play Terrace under as well. Like, put Terrace under just on Nothos. It is just good.
Oh yeah, that's vile. Yeah.
These aren't even on the list.
That's one of my votes for sure.
I was like, we should have put these ones on the list, man.
That's right.
Pummel or any other cards that make you discard stuff.
That's the thing. Yeah, discard effects I think are very, very horrible, especially in this game. But yeah, it's like even if they attack you, right, and they got 2 floating, you have to sort of assume that is a pummel. So you have to overcommit, and then they just don't pummel you. It's like
Well, yeah,
it's just like a mind game. You don't even see the pummel; they just mind gamed you. But that's the great thing about this game we were speaking about earlier. Why do we love it? Because of the nuances. Well, it is salt-inducing, but there's those little moments that you play poker against the opponent as well to a certain degree, which is nice.
Yeah, there's one story that I have that kind of involves Pummel. Pummel isn't actually in the story, but it has an effect on the events of the story. I was playing, it was a Welcome to Wraith draft. It was the first one that I had ever done. And I drafted Reinar, and my deck apparently was really good. And I think I went undefeated there. And I think it was the last match against the person who had drafted Dorinthia and had like just crazy, like got all the Majestics that they needed. And I think like 2 copies of Ironsong Determination somehow.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean, like, they had 1 Steelblade Supremacy and 2 Ironsong Determinations, but even that was, like, just nuts.
Yeah.
And I had a Slogism arsenal for, like, half the game, and I just, like, didn't have an opportunity to use it. And every time I attacked, I would have, like, 2 cards left in my hand, and then this 1 card in Arsenal that was just sitting. And I was at, like, 2 life. And every time I would attack with like a singular thing, even if it was just with the Romping Club, they were like, well, I can't afford to take pummel damage here. I just can't do it. So they were like, okay, I'm going to block out with my full hand, 4 cards, like for 4 or 5 turns in a row. And then the very last, because I was waiting for, what's the card that combos with Slogism?
It's there's Slogism and Regurgitating Slog.
Regurgitating Slog, yeah. So I was waiting for my red Regurgitating Slog, and it was like in the last card. It was like the last card of my deck. So I was just able to wait this out by making him block with his full hand every turn. And then I went, okay, Slogism +6, Regurgitating Slog, it has Dominate.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, it wasn't a pummel. And I was like,
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's a losing game too. If you're just blocking out every single turn, you're just gonna fatigue out and die. Like,
yeah.
It was.
So you do have to
crazy.
You do have to take the risk sometimes, don't you? You have to think, oh, they got 2 floating. Is that a bluff, or I have to take it and just see what happens. You have to just live life on the edge sometimes,
unless
and not block.
Unless you're Oldhim and have Winter's Will. Yay.
True. Yeah, you can just block everything and swing a hammer.
Block everything, activate Crown of Seeds, swing my hammer, you know.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, not my favorite card to have played against me, Pummel.
Yeah. Right. So my card's actually the opposite of Pummel in my opinion. It's the opposite of Pummel. And this is another card from Welcome to Wraith. And it gives me the opposite feelings of Pummel as someone who wants to pummel someone. Me, I'm the one who wants to pummel you. But you have freaking unmovable, and I can't pummel you. So my card is unmovable. So this is me mostly talking about like the heyday of Flesh and Blood back in the Welcome to Wraith era, where I'd be coming in with a good old attack, coming in with like I don't know, any Reinar attack or something like that, and I want to pummel, and they go unmovable for 8 from Arsenal, and I'm like, well, there's no way I'm getting over 8, so there's that. And that also happened to me when I was playing Azalea a lot as well, trying to do some like big Red in the Ledger dominate turns against characters that don't normally have defense reactions, and they inexplicably have an unmovable every single time. It's not actually every single time, but it feels like every single time, and that's why it's on my list as one of the most salt-inducing cards, because it feels like they always have it. And I'm always like, do you have it? Of course you have it. Of course you're both running a movable red and also happen to have it in your hand, or in your arsenal.
Well, and your example that you gave to us before we started recording today was you were playing against an Ira one time that was just like, oh yeah, by the way, red unmovable.
Yeah, it's red unmovable from Arsenal. It's like, oh, cool.
Brilliant.
Of course you have it. Doesn't even matter what hero I'm playing against. Dash? I don't know. They probably have a movable. Data Doll? I don't know. They got it. Arachne? Sure, why not? Like, yeah. Anyway.
It's just funny as well, like the art as well. The art on there is just like this massive golden-clad guardian with a tower shield that's blocking like 7 blokes, like trying to spear him. And yes, Ira's just like, I'm movable.
Brilliant. That's me. That's me.
It's one of those cards that feels like it's overtuned, but it's actually not at all. And it feels that way just as like the attacker. It's just like puts up this brick It's just absolute brick wall. And so for me,
Yeah.
as someone who loves the aggressive decks, which I know are also salt inducing, I'm sure we're gonna talk about those very shortly. I'm pointing to Azz, by the way. Yes. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
mine. That's my number 2 pick, unmovable. It was like
Yeah.
an easy pick for me too. I'm just trying to think of the cards that when I play Flesh and Blood, especially like, when I think about playing Flesh and Blood, if someone plays it against me, my initial reaction is just like, oh God,
Just like,
God damn it.
yeah.
So
And I've fired many a 8 power red in the ledger in my time as well, and just to be blocked by one card from Arsenal, the immovable, is just like, what is the point against playing Rangers against Guardians? You just can't bloody hit them. You can't.
With Azalea, it's like extra bad too, because you had to go through
It
all
is.
these freaking hoops to give your red in the ledger dominate. You have to like do the whole juggle where you like, maybe play aim shot, and then you reload, and then you activate your skullbone to flip up a thing to see if the top card is the thing, and then you're like, oh, it is a thing. And then I can activate Azalea and do all this stuff, jump through all these hoops, fire it off, and they're just like, pitch 3 unmovable from Arsenal.
Red unmovable, yeah.
Yeah.
So nah, I'm not gonna take that damage.
Yeah.
Which is why I love Dreadball so much. 'Cause obviously it prevents them from doing it from hand at least, but they can still put it in the arsenal and still do it with bloody thing, unless you play the release attention or whatever. But yeah, absolutely horrible card.
They always have the option of just pulling it straight out of their arse.
And the funniest part is like,
straight out of there.
Almost no one plays unmovable these days too. Like that's one of the funny things is like I can't remember the last time someone played it against me, but I still remember it, and that's why it made it onto my list. So
it was scarring enough.
Yeah, like every time you're presenting 8, you're just thinking, oh, for goodness sake, do they have it? Do they have the red unmovable?
They always do.
Even though they're playing Briar.
They always do. Always.
Yeah. And like
you're playing
red line fire movable.
Playing Welcome to Wraith Sealed. They have it. Whatever that card is in their arsenal, whatever you think it is, it's either an unmovable Razor Reflex or a Pummel. It's gonna be one of those 3. And for me, it's always gonna be unmovable. Just always.
Bloody hell.
Anyway, Azz, regale us with your salt.
Yeah. So let's move on to aggro matches.
Ooh,
one of the biggest cards for Briar in that 0, red line strategy, Ravenous Rabbles turning into Ravenouses for 8 and Enlightened Strikes for 9 and all this garbage is Channel Mount Heroic. One of multiple channels on my list, I might add. Channel Mount Heroic, it's a 3-cost Earth Action Aura, so it stays out. Blocks for 3. It has Go Again on it, so after you play this, you can do shenanigans, which is ridiculous. Shouldn't have Go Again on it. It just says attack action cards you control have +3. Brilliant.
yeah.
So all of your 0 costs are basically attacking for 7 Go Again, which is great. And obviously, even things like CNC and all that garbage pumped up by 3 as well. So it's just adding so much value to every other card that you play, and you probably would have drawn loads of cards before this with Tome of Harvests, or even played a Force of Nature, which means if you hit, you draw a card, which means you draw more 0-cost Go Again attacks, which are now coming in for 7, and God knows what. So seeing this played against you is just like, right, here we go.
Yep.
Channel Mount Heroic, let's go. And you have to survive. These channels are just absolutely horrible. You have to just survive through them.
Well, unless they're playing channel like Thunderstep or whatever. In which case,
what even is that? What even is that card?
Let's just say not all of the channels are made equally. We'll just put it that way.
They're not. No, it's really not. On the other one, you have to pay a resource to get Go Again. Like what?
Yeah.
In comparison to just throwing Ravenous Rabbles for 9.
Yeah. E-Strike for 10.
Yeah.
GG.
E-Strike for exactly. E-Strike for 10 already has Go Again because they got a lightning token.
Oh no, the worst is when they have the lightning token and then they're like snatch, and it's like, it is gonna suck no matter what. Like you're gonna have to
snatch
block
for 7, Go Again if it hits draw. What?
Yeah, that's when things start to get real nasty. It's like, okay,
if they play Force of Nature, they draw 2. It's like, go away now.
So you can block with your whole hand, probably, so they don't draw the card, but they're going to follow that up with another thing, and so it's just going to, you're just going to be in pain no matter what. It's going to hurt.
Yeah, it's not very nice. And that's why obviously it's rose to the top quite quickly. And I thought I would see a lot of it at Battle Hardened Leeds, but everything got a bit frosty, and we can see that's going on. Especially Leeds was, all ice heroes in the top 8. So Briar just hanging on very, very, very loosely to the Living Legend. She probably will still achieve it quite quickly, but being gate kept by the ice at the moment. But yeah, horrible card. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of people in the comments would have experienced this absolute shenanigans going on. But yeah, that's my second card.
Yep. To continue my anecdote from before, one of the other matches that I lost at the Team Sealed or the Team Blitz calling was against Briar, who obviously Channel Mount Heroic punched me for like 1 million damage. Me being Lexi, who is notoriously great at blocking, was able to stave off all of the aggression. No, I died.
No, I died. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was Snatch that did it too. It was like a multiple Snatch turn that really just got me. Like,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's just hard to deal with sometimes.
Yeah.
And when most of my cards like block for 2, it's like, well, guess I'm just not gonna have a turn. And then just not having a turn as an aggressive deck. As my Lexi deck was an aggressive deck, not a Ice Lexi. Then it's just like, guess I'm dead, because if I block with everything and have to pass the turn, then they're just gonna punch me even harder. It's like a losing battle. Anyway, I agree.
Yeah, it's just I mean, if you're an aggro against an aggro, if this comes down, you've basically lost the race to a certain degree, haven't you? It's just the amount of value they're getting out of this is just absolutely horrendous. And if you are blocking it out, you're still leaking damage, which they're still drawing cards and all this bollocks. So yeah, it's
Channel Mount Heroic is one of the few cards in Flesh and Blood where you get exponential value from, because every single time you play an attack action card, you get +3, and +3 by itself is worthy of a card effect. Most attack reactions pump for +3, and most of them cost 1 resource. We also have, you have some that cost 0 as well, but the 0 cost ones that give you +3 usually have other stipulations, unless you're assassin, then you're eating good. But traditionally speaking, like a +3 would be like Iron Song. What is it called? Was it Iron Song Response? Not that one.
Iron Song Response is the 0 cost reprise one.
Yeah, that one. That's what I'm talking about. So 0, but +3 only if they block with the card. So this is a card that really breaks that like stat mold that some people like to talk about, where like, oh, every card has like 8 value worth of stats or some kind of thing. This card, depending on how many cards you play, has way, way, way more than 8. And almost like immediately, if you drop this card and then you're like, oh, I have less life, so Scar for 7, and then Ravenous Rabble for whatever 7, some amount, and then another thing like
Snatch with Go Again from Embodiment of Lightning.
Yeah.
So like, it really is one of the cards that makes Briar like super strong. There's another card too, but I'm sure we'll talk about that one eventually, as well.
So with all of this talk about Briar and how tilting it is to play against Briar, why don't we keep that going a little bit? My next card that I would like to bring up is a card that I think everybody is on the same page about this one. I don't think that this is particularly controversial in any way. I think that this card was maybe a mistake. That's maybe me going a little bit far, but this is my own personal opinion. Rosetta Thorn is the strongest maybe weapon in the game. Like, with how easy it is to activate, with how hard blocking split damage is, and the fact that it only costs 1 resource. Like, I think the thing that's really gating it is that its heroes, Chain in CC got Living Legended, right? So he can't use it in CC anymore because you can't play Chain anymore. Briar is very swiftly on her way there, which, of course, because of the specialization or the weapons or their signature weapons, that's what it's called. because of that, we won't see Rosetta Thorn anymore. But I think the strongest detractor from Rosetta Thorn is that its heroes keep getting banned.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
there's that. And I would argue that in no small part due to Rosetta Thorn.
Yeah.
But Rosetta Thorn, I mean, okay, I'll just cut the preamble. Rosetta Thorn should have been an elemental Runeblade sword. I have no idea why it's not. All of the other weapons in the set follow that kind of theme, right? So like Shiver is an elemental ranger bow. Why can't Azalea use Shiver where, like, you know, Viserai can use Rosetta Thorn? It doesn't make sense to me, like from a flavor standpoint, and from a power standpoint, it also doesn't make any sense because the card is like really, really good.
Like
It's like Voltaire as well, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
Voltaire. Why can't Azalea use it?
Yeah.
But yeah, as you say, Viserai was put up a notch from this weapon alone because he likes to play attacks and non-attacks multiple times during the thing. So he's always getting the 1-for-4 split damage at the end.
Yeah.
Nebula Blade doesn't exist anymore, and that's his signature weapon. Reaping Blade is essentially what people. Or I used to have a janky Viserai deck, and that's what I used for the one resource floating on the end to swing for 3. That's basically what it was. But swinging for 4 split damage for 1 that you can always essentially get in a Viserai deck is ridiculous. So yeah, that's another thing as well. Viserai using it.
It's funny when you look at like the Tales of Aria weapons. So like you have the 2 ranger weapons are basically locked to the hero. So you have 2 elemental ranger bows that only Lexi can use. But then you look at the Runeblade weapons, and they had Duskblade, which is just a Runeblade weapon, and then you had Rosetta Thorn, which is just a Runeblade weapon. Why did they make the Ranger ones like specific to Lexi? But like they're like, nah, Runeblades need the help. They're the ones that could they need the help, so anyone could use these weapons.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
That's a design choice that I'm just to this day just completely unsure of. Like I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why that decision specifically was made.
It feels like Rosetta Thorn. I don't know this for certain if this is true, but it feels like Rosetta Thorn was initially slated to be an elemental Runeblade weapon, but it got changed at some point. It even looks like one. Like it's named as such. It looks like one. It fits the flavor. I'm not sure if it got changed due to like their internal testing or like, oh, maybe we think that Chain needs some help. I laugh because Chain's one of the most busted heroes in the entire game.
But also like keeping in that same like train of thought, how crazy would it have been if Azalea had access to Voltaire?
It'd been nice.
Like it would have been really nice. It would have been a big buff because then you get, Go Again, which is something that Azalea generally has a pretty difficult time coming across. But it's like, but Ranger didn't get that, and instead Runeblade got again. Like I'll say at the very least the strongest token weapon that exists. But in my opinion, maybe the strongest weepon in the game right now.
I think Rosetta Thorn is probably the strongest weapon that attacks. Put it that way.
Yeah. To be fair, I think that Luminaris is absolutely busted.
Luminaris is pretty good
for multiple reasons. I think, but strongest weapon that attacks.
Luminaris is good in a way that alters how you fundamentally play the deck. Whereas Rosetta Thorn is just like, 4 damage. Here you go. But it's good though. It's like I don't want to disparage. Well, I do want to disparage it, but it's good. It's disgusting. Also,
it's just like the most effective way to get 4 damage in the game.
I do want to say that if Azalea could use Voltaire, I'd probably be running Azalea instead of Lexi in Blitz as my no fuse deck. Because
I think it might be worth, it might even be worth doing a stream like at some point on your weekly streams, Kel. Like, what would happen if Azalea could use Voltaire? See if it makes a difference. It
would be sick. Actually, I think my no fuse deck would be legit because that would give me access to Red in the Ledger and Knock the Death Whistle. So I think the deck would be actually like much stronger because it's no fuse. I use the blues that I use. The only elemental cards I use are the blues. and they're just for like incidental value. There are a lot of the ones that if you play from Arsenal, you get a draw card.
The Polar Blast and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, which I feel like they're decent value, right? Because they replace themselves, and then if you pitch a blue, you have some resources floating. So it's a great start to a turn where you have an extra card, but or rather you don't lose a card, but you gain resources. So that's the only thing I would lose. But then you gain Red in the Ledger and you gain Knock the Death Whistle, which are like insane, in my opinion. Like some of the best specializations in the entire game.
Absolutely, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I think it'd be good.
Well, we'll put that on the back burner. Maybe give that a go at some point.
Imagine, man, attacking for 6 with your either like so you can either give it the +1, kind of like how you do with Dreadbore anyway. But imagine like Red in the Ledger with Go Again. Like you can like can like bait the hell out of them too. So you could like start the turn with like a Red in the Ledger, like with Go Again, and so they either have to block it all out or only have 1 action point the next turn. Or they can just take it, and then you follow that up with something even like another like card that you want to get hit or want to hit, like Remorseless or something.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Let's fantasize about that another time. I can see the thumbnail now. It's like Azalea wielding Voltaire. Oh yeah, give it to me.
Oh, I love Voltaire. Yeah. It's one of my favorites.
Like lightning bolts and stuff coming out of her places.
It's one of the reasons why Lexi is like one of my favorite heroes. Voltaire is such a sweet weapon.
Yeah. Nice.
Anyway, shall I move on?
To you, I think. Yeah.
Shall I move on to mine? Okay, so
absolutely.
I swear not all of mine are defensive cards, but they mostly are. The next one I'm going to talk about. All right, so this one, okay. I think a lot of people can get aboard of this. Like casual, like social players, tournament grinders. I know a lot of pros don't like this card either for what it does, because it's like, I don't want to say it's too good, but it's kind of too good. We're going to talk about Oasis Respite. So Oasis Respite is my 3rd saltiest card. It might be my number 1 saltiest card, to be honest, like if I'm being honest here. Specifically as an assassin player, because this stupid card, like we recently had a UPF stream where I had arsenaled a shred, right? So I was coming in with all my assassin attacks, like coming in with my my surgical extractions and all that kind of good stuff, and I'm sandbagging this shred, and every time, it was like 3 times in a row from multiple players, I got Oasis Respited instead of blocked. They didn't block. They just Oasis Respited it, and like they somehow knew, like they soul read that it was a shred, and they just kept getting Oasis Respited. I'm like, I can't do anything about this. Yeah, so that's not why Oasis Respite is salt-inducing. It is for me. I just think Oasis Respite is salt-inducing overall, because it's like a very ubiquitous card that a lot of heroes run. It is kind of like I would guess probably one of the most ran defensive cards in the game, next to like Sink Below. It's got to be like Sink Below and Oasis Respite, like as like some of the most played defensive cards in the entire game. If you don't know what it does, by the way, just in case, it's an instant. We're talking about the red one because the red one's the biggest offender. It's an instant.
Yeah. It
costs 1 to play, and it says that it prevents the next 4 damage that would be dealt to you. Will be done to target player, and then if that player has less life than other players, then they gain a life, basically. So basically, you prevent the next 4 damage that you take, and you also gain a life if you have less life. So it virtually prevents about 5-ish points of damage for 1 resource, and that rate isn't like amazing, right? Because we have Sink Belows that block 4 for 0, and you also get a little bit of filter. But what makes it so good is that it's an instant, so it gets around dominate effects or other sort of evasion type stuff, and then it prevents any form of damage, so it also prevents arcane damage. So I know a lot of wizard players out there who are like, when they were listening to Azz, this is a straw man, but as they were listening to Azz, they were like, I don't know. I think Aether Wildfire and Blazing Aether are totally fair cards, and they're very salty with the Oasis Respite. I can tell you that much. Like if a wizard player plays Wildfire, and it gets immediately Oasis Respitten, then they're a salty wizard. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
So it's
Just one of those cards, isn't it? It's like, you can block out any damage you want, and you can get round that sort of reactionary window restriction. So if you can't play defense reacts for whatever reason, like you say, if you're getting CNC'd, if you're getting dominated, crippling, crushed, or what have you, you can still sink below from your hand to block 4, and then you can pay 1 an Oasis and prevent 8, so you don't get crushed and still have 2 cards. So get round crippling crush and pummels and all that sort of thing. So yeah,
it's like the versatility of it that makes it like so strong. It's the fact that it's just like in almost every single situation, it just does what it does, right? It's one of the cards that doesn't really, you can kind of play around it, but not a whole lot. There's not a lot of counters to it, is what I'm saying. Unless
Aetherize.
I was saying, unless the Wizards are playing Aetherize, where they play their Wildfire, and then you Oasis Respite, and then they Aetherize and counter your Oasis Respite.
Oh, that'd be brilliant.
Which would be
I gotta tell you, if a wizard is playing Aetherize and are able to cast it with a valid target, they deserve to win that game.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were just simply more prepared than you.
Yeah. But yeah,
Fantastic.
It's Oasis Respite. It's a common from Uprising, and it is probably one of the best cards and most played cards from the entire set.
Yeah. I remember when did my first Uprising event. It was Uprising Sealed, and a bunch of the cards. I hadn't really listened to any sort of content about what cards people were like really keeping an eye out for, cards to really pick if you're drafting or sealed or whatever. And so a lot of my thoughts and feelings about the cards were very organic. It was just from how they performed in the deck. And yeah, like after, I think maybe even, it might have been the first game. I think it was like officially the second game. I was just thinking about it and I was like, Oasis Respite is crazy. Like this card is nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I play a lot of Icelander. Icelander is like my go-to for Uprising Limited, either sealed or draft. I really just like playing Icelander quite a bit. And a lot of the games come down to like, all right, I'm going to kill you. Do you have Oasis Respite? Like if you have it, you live. If you don't, then you're dead. Like it's just how it is.
Just crazy.
Yeah. It's a good card. It's one of those cards that we'll see play. I can't not see this card not being played. It was like triple negative, but like it's gonna be played like throughout the Flesh and Blood history in any format that it's legal, to be honest. In fact, I actually think Oasis Respite is perhaps at its best in formats like Blitz and UPF, where you don't have like sideboards or whatever, because it's kind of a catch-all, right? Whereas if you're playing Blitz, right, running something like Sink Below has a little bit of opportunity cost to it, right? Because like if you're running up against a wizard, right, your red Sink Below sucks like hard, unless they're running like a Bull Lander kind of deal. Like pitching red to prevent 1 arcane barrier is like terrible. But Oasis Respite always gonna do 4, maybe 5. Like,
it is active in every matchup, really, because every matchup wants to deal damage to you in some way. And the fact that it works on both axes of the physical damage and arcane damage just means that like it's just never dead. Which is again crazy.
Here's my buying tips for me, noted finance guy. Don't even have the right word for it.
The Living Legends Finance Corner, here it comes.
If you don't have foil red Oasis Respite, you should just go buy them. They're not that expensive, and you're probably going to use them throughout your Flesh and Blood career. You should just do it. Just go buy 3, and thank yourself later when Ultimate Pit Fight is super popular and everyone wants a playset of them, and they're like $5 to $10 each because it's been out of print for like 2 years or whatever. So yeah, just a little tip. It's one of those cards. I like to think about this. I don't think about it in terms of finance, but I think about it in terms of me wanting to get cool cards or cards that I would want in the future and wanting to just play with them. And Oasis Respite foils is one of them. Another one is also like Scarf or Scar foils, Easter egg foils. These are all cards that personally I have sought after because I'm like, these are cards that I'm going to want to play with. Oh, go ahead.
I found out recently that Fiendel's Fighting Spirit, the red foils, are like $10 right now.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
I have a bunch of them.
I was surprised too. I'm sure I have like probably 10 of them just laying around in bulk somewhere.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, people want them. Apparently they're a popular option.
Yeah. Those are ones that I also have a full foil playset of, but that's because I opened up an absurd amount of Uprising boxes, and I just happen to have like 7 of them or whatever. The yellow ones too, for the Fighting Spirit, the yellow ones are also quite good too, because they still pop illusionist shenanigans. Anyway, let's move it on to Az. What is your third most sodium inducing card?
Sodium inducing.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I was just trying to think of a way to sort of link what we're speaking to something else, but yeah, there isn't really any real link between these ones. But let's just go with the next channel card on the list.
Channel Fireball.
Channel Fireball. Yeah, absolutely. No. Channel Lake Frigid is the next one. So yeah. Especially in Icelander decks, because they can flash it out on your turn and just completely ruin your entire turn. So yeah, it's absolutely disgusting. Just making everything cards and activated abilities costing an additional 1 is just horrendous when you're playing Rangers, because you have to activate your bow to get something in your arsenal in the first place. That then costs you 2 resources to put something in there.
God.
And then if you want to activate your cross wrap, that costs you 1. Oh, it's just horrendous. Yeah, it's just horrible. And then obviously when they play it on your turn as well, because it's a blue, you get the frostbite, so that adds an extra tax to the first thing you do. So activating Death Dealer on your turn, if you've been frostbitten, it's going to cost you 3. So you have to pitch a blue to get a card in your arsenal. So yeah, it's just it elongates the whole game a little bit as well, and you almost don't want to do anything on your turn because you're just wasting stuff. So yeah, it's just a horrible card, really. Absolutely hate seeing it being played. And it's always, when it comes out, it's always like, oh, here we go. It's bloody winter is here now.
I think my favorite part about it, both ways, is because it's hilarious, is that it makes a Fiendel Spring Tunic cost 1 to activate. So you can't even use your tunic. It's hilarious.
It makes it neutral.
Yep. So it's hilarious. Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's like a pretty unanimous card, right? It's like it's just so annoying. As someone who likes to play Icelanders, like I said, I think it's fun. And as someone who primarily plays aggro decks all of the other time, I hate it. It's one of my least favorite cards to see across the board. Because it's just like, all right, this awesome hand that I have now that I could attack with like 4 or 5 things. Now I can attack with like 2 of them maybe. And if I'm Ranger, good luck, because now all the arrows cost an additional 2 to play.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah.
Yep.
Really, really horrible.
Like it costs your 0 cost arrows cost 2 more to play, right? Your 1-drop arrows now cost. Still also 2 more to play, but it makes your 1-drop arrows cost 3 because you have to pay 1 to use your bow, and then you have to pay 1 more to actually like activate it. So,
yeah,
channel.
It's not very nice.
Think it's really funny. I was watching or reading like some Twitter discourse about various things, and I think Yuki Lee Bender called it Channel Lake Friendship or something like that, which is like. It's so good. It's like the most ironic name.
Yeah, I love that. It's like when people refer to the BFG as the big friendly gun.
Yeah, exactly. Just wants to be your friend.
God, let's move swiftly on from that. That's just taxing effects that just don't allow you to play the game.
You can do maximum salt inducing by playing one of the alternate art ones too, just to flex on them a little bit too, as you're laughing in the face.
Yeah.
I have 2 of them, and I have a line from a local to get a third for my full playset.
I had two. And I was at the option. I was at the crossroads of whether I could buy another one to have the full playset, or just sell one and then just have one for like completionist collection sake. And I sold the other one at like the height of the set for a lot of money. I think I sold it for like $200 or $300 or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
That checks out.
I don't regret that. So I still have my one with the cute little fox thing on it. Meep. I think they're called meeps. Yeah. Cute little meep. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Whose turn is it? Is it my turn now?
It's your turn, yeah.
It's yours, yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's see. What else is on my list here? I have a good one, but I swapped out some stuff. Okay. So I want to keep these sort of grouped together in kind of an order. So the next one I want to talk about here is a card that, as a warrior player, I love this card.
I know what you're talking about.
But it is the most deflating card to see played against you. And when you're listening to this, you might think of numerous attack reactions that warrior has access to, and all of them are probably fair, but none of them hit the pinnacle, the peak of frustration and sodium like Rout.
Yeah.
Rout is such a crazy card.
Yeah, it really is.
It's I think Rout is the
Sorry,
OG salt-inducing card. It's the thing. I think the one that I saw the most salt when the game was like first, like very, very young. I think it's the one that people complained about the most.
Yeah, like it's that combined with Singing Steelblade, really, like just being able to have access to it from your deck at the opportune time. But there was a game I was playing at an armory against our like local Dorinthia player. He loves Dorinthia, plays only Dorinthia. He's very good at Dorinthia, but also he high rolls me every time. He I think this was the game where he started off. He had Iron Song Determination and Glistening Steelblade on turn 1.
Nice.
And was just passed over to me for my first turn, having like 4 counters on Dawnblade because there was just nothing I could do about it.
No.
And so I was like, okay, cool. And then the very last turn, he attacked me with it, just like bare attack. And I was just like, okay, well, I can't afford to take any damage from this, so I'm going to block with my whole hand. I blocked 12. And he said, oh, okay, pitch 2 blues, 2 routes. I was like,
2 routes.
2 routes. I got double routed.
Oh my goodness me.
Yeah,
so it's just a casual, technically, plus 12.
Yeah, plus 6 from raw damage and return 2 cards to hand. That's disgusting.
Yeah, it was nuts. But yeah, like again, as a Dorinthia player, it feels so good to be able to do the getcha of like bounce a card back, you can't block with it, and also plus 3. Like it's just a crazy amount of value from a single card. But God, it's frustrating.
Can you so if they de-react with something, can you return that to their hand as well?
You can, but since you're still in the reaction step, you can just replay it.
Yes. If they have the resources. So earlier I mentioned how Unmovable was one of my saltiest cards. One of my favorite things to do is to route Unmovables back to their hand when they have no resources. So it's just like get absolutely wrecked. Like not only are you not preventing this 8 damage, you're going to be taking more.
You're going to be taking more. Yeah.
So I played a lot of Dorinthia back in my day. So
in that situation, route is crazy against that defense reaction, but every time I can route a defense reaction, it's always Sink Below.
Don't route Sink Below. They're just gonna play it again and then get the effect again. So
I see. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so it's more effective against the defense reacts that cost them resources to play. Yeah,
100%.
Exactly.
Okay. Nice.
But yeah, just in general, like especially as the way to close out the game, I think that route is one of the most effective tools that warrior has, and they have a lot of attack reactions
unless your opponent's playing with Oasis Respite.
You can't bounce Oasis Respite.
No, you cannot.
Oh god, that stupid card. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh jeez. Yeah, no, route. I even there's even some memes that I've shared on. If Kellen in the future editing this, put the Kakaguri, Yumiko Jabami meme of her holding up the card and then flipping it over and it's route. Like, and she has like this smug look on her face. That's like one of my favorites. It's like I was like, that's a classic flesh and blood meme.
Yeah, I again love route. Hate seeing it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's right.
You love to play it, hate to see it played against you. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword, some of these cards, isn't it? It's like, oh yeah, it's sick when I play it, but when I play against it, it's like, oh, go away.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
When I play against it, I'm like, that's not allowed.
The hallmark of a selfish card. This card is all enjoyment for the user, no enjoyment for the opponent.
No.
Exactly.
And
lovely.
Speaking of sucking all the enjoyment out of playing Flesh and Blood,
There we go.
mine is just has casually one of the best mechanics Flesh and Blood has ever made. Unanimously, everyone loves this mechanic, and that is Spectra. Everyone loves Spectra.
It's brilliant.
It's
awesome mechanic.
It's so great and balanced, especially when you can force your opponent to attack your Spectral card with something like Arclight Sentinel. So Arclight Sentinel is my fourth pick. Once again, not all my cards are defensive, all right? All right, just hear me out. Just hear me out. But this
I don't know if I believe you.
Okay, so Arclight Sentinel is one of those cards. When I first read it, I was like, yeah, that's fine, I guess. It's like six resources to like prevent an attack. It's so much more than that. It's like 6 resources to take an extra turn, basically. So what it does, it's a 6-drop, costs 6 to play. It's an instant, a light illusionist instant aura, so it can only be basically played by Prism, also because it's also a Prism specialization. And it says, if Arclight Sentinel is in the arena, when an opponent announces an attack, they must choose Arclight Sentinel as the target of the attack. And then it also says Spectra, which says if Arclight Sentinel can be attacked, when Arclight Sentinel becomes the target of an attack, destroy it and close the combat chain. The attack does not resolve. And so if you're new to Flesh and Blood, basically what that means is the attack not resolving means that the effects of the card don't resolve, such as Go Again. So if something with Go Again is forced to attack the Arclight Sentinel, like we'll just use Scar for Scar because it's like a really easy example. The attack hits the Arclight Sentinel. The Arclight Sentinel is then destroyed, and then the combat chain closes, and then Go Again, and all other effects do not happen. So unless you have some sort of shenanigans to get another action point, your turn is done, and that's just how it is. Doesn't matter how much it was coming in for. Your turn is done. You can be. This is one of the cards that actually shuts down the channel Mount Heroic shenanigans that Az was talking about. If they channel Mount Heroic and they're like, "Ooh, I'm gonna go off," and they're just like Arclight Sentinel, that's basically just like get wrecked. Yeah. The one of the most satisfying things I imagine, because I don't have a lot of experience playing Arclight Sentinel, would be to Arclight Sentinel someone's Go Again Snatch for 7. If they're like Snatch for 7, Go Again, you Arclight Sentinel that, oh, you're eating good. Like that's gotta feel good. But on the flip side, on the side that I'm usually on, it's usually like Rain Razors, load some bow, or depends on the turn, but you're coming in for some arrows. You're gonna do some Go Again shenanigans. You have something really spicy like your Endless Arrow that you're gonna pump up and get back to your hand, and the Arclight Sentinel, and your turn's done, and your Endless Arrow goes to your bin, and then you're sad.
Oh, see you later. Yeah,
one
card as well. That's cost them 1 card, and they've pitched the rest. So yeah. I got similar situations like if you're exactly the other end of the spectrum, Ranger, you're stacking up a massive dominated arrow for like 14 damage that has a lovely on hit effect or something, and they're just like ALS.
Yep.
All right, cheers then.
Yep.
Great.
And the thing is like if they have 2 blues and this, they get to keep 1 card in their hand, and they can play that card and then attack with all their other little aura shenanigans. Attack you for 1 with all their little auras, and So I think this is one that a lot of folks would agree with. Arclight Sentinel.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it doesn't see a lot of play because Prism is a living legend in Classic Constructed at least, and in Blitz it doesn't see a ton of play here and there. To be honest, Blitz Prism doesn't see a lot of play in Blitz just in general these days. But yeah,
apart from Bill over there,
except for Bill, who doesn't play Arclight Sentinel.
That's my one drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yep.
Nice.
Arclight Sentinel. Yeah. I think what makes it so salty is just, first of all, the spectrum mechanic, but also that it's almost the same reason as one of the other cards we talked about earlier, in that it kind of just gives you an extra turn. It's kind of like the defensive version. This is a weird way to think about it. A defensive version of Storm Striders, right? Where it just gives you an extra turn. Storm Striders is like an offensive version, gives you an extra turn on the turn that you're gonna win, so you take 2 turns in a row to kill. This one is a more, obviously a defensive one where you just take an extra turn. Basically, it's just like, yep, here's a card. Give me my turn back, please.
Yeah. It's just a counter spell to the opposing hero's most powerful attacks like Crippling Crush. Nope, sorry, you're not having that card. I counter spell it. Red in the Ledger. I know it's not really a attack that does anything to Prism, but just you're taking away their best cards by ALSing it. So yeah, it's just horrendous, really.
Yeah. And
on top of that, the thing for Azalea that hates it is like, normally with Azalea you go tall anyway, so it's like, I have the ability to build up this huge attack. Arclight Sentinel.
Yeah, and then you've used like 4 cards to do it, and they've used 1. Yeah. It's just like, okay, brilliant. So yeah, not only have I chucked my arrow away, but I've chucked away all those buffs as well that you've just ALS'd for one card that you've put in the bin, and you've pitched the rest. Great. Yep. And then you're attacking me with 5 Spectras on your next turn of Luminaris. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, see, that's the thing that makes it like really egregious, is that it's not just like take an extra turn and then do nothing and then pass back. It's they take an extra turn and then smack you with all their stupid auras that they already have on the field. Like it's like it's gross. Not a particularly fun card to play against. We'll say that. Put it that way. Not a particularly fun.
Yeah.
No one's ever like, when someone plays Arclight Sentinel on you, they're like, oh, fun. You're like,
no,
great, yeah.
Oh, good move. Yeah, brilliant.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
well
sweet.
You'd play that.
Oh, sweet. I love that card.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah, this is going to be a good game. Let's go. Play on.
I think it's true for a lot of the cards on this list. To be honest, like no one's ever like when they're sitting down against Kano and Kano plays Aether Wildfire. You're not like, oh, sweet. I wanted.
Cool. Let's see where this goes.
I wanted a one-turn game anyway. Like that's what I was here for.
Oh dear!
I didn't want to
follow the red molten road. Here we go.
I didn't want to play Flesh and Blood. Did you want to play Flesh and Blood? No. Anyway,
it's me.
I'll pass it off to Az.
Yeah. Speaking of red molten roads and a little bit more of wizardry, this is another token weapon, which I just think it's just annoying and it just wears you down mentally. You're always thinking, oh, what's the point in blocking this? But then towards the end of the game, you're like, oh, I need to do something about this now. And that's Waning Moon.
Ooh.
So they can, this is once per turn instant, token weapon for a wizard, 2-handed staff, 2 resources, deal 2 arcane damage to target hero. That's once per turn instant. So on yours turn or theirs. But if it's not your turn, you can deal 3 arcane damage instead. Activate this ability only if you've played a non-attack action this turn, non-attack action card. So normally that's something like Icelander, channel Lake Frigid from their arsenal blue. You get a frostbite, then they Waning Moon you at the end, and they moon you for 3. We've heard that before.
Oh, I say moon you a lot. That's my go-to. Moon you for 3. It's like my favorite line of play is blue, any blue ice card, but preferably one that like costs 1. So you pitch a blue, play a 1-drop, like the shards, like the 1 for 2 ice wizard. So it deals 2 damage to him. They get a frostbite, and then you moon them on top of it. So it's like it's 3 resources for 5 arcane damage plus a frostbite. I actually see this is one of those situations where I really like Waning Moon, but also I get it. I get it.
Yeah,
I
it's
get it.
Yeah, it just feels really oppressive, and the amount of
It
damage
is,
it can
it
do
is.
to you. Yeah, it's just it's horrible.
It- See, I like it because it feels nasty. It feels so nice. It's just like ooh, I can just blast them for 3 whenever I want on
I
this
can just
turn.
moon you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and just wait until they have all their resources gone and then blast them for 3, or I can try to blast them for 3 and force them to pay some resources. And then I also get a say moon you, which is also great.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's
that's also
just
just
all those aspects just get under your skin. It's like
Yeah.
moon you. I don't want to get mooned again. For goodness sake.
Oh man.
mooning me.
Oh, bloody hell! Yeah, and I've asked last night. I don't want to be mooned as well. Jeez.
We were talking about like the best weapons in the game. I honestly think Waning Moon is up there. I think it's one of the best weapons in the entire game.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Next to
Yeah.
Luminaris, next to Rosetta Thorn, and I don't think it's
I
like
think that's very fair.
I don't think it's like that much of an argument either. Like I think most people would agree
Mhm.
it's like up there. Not maybe not the number 1, but it's like in contention for at least like the top 5 or so. It's
Yeah.
good. I know a lot of Wizard players who played over Aetherweave or whatever, Crucible of Aetherweave.
Mhm.
I know a lot of people who are now playing that instead of Crucible. So that's saying a lot because Crucible was like a staple for the longest time. But you just
Yeah.
blast them for 3. Like it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the fact that you can do it on both turns as well. So yeah, it's bloody horrible. You can choose your window as to when you want to do it, sort of thing. So if they've got no cards in hand, you can moon them for 3 damage,
Yep.
or you can just put it in there after you've done something else. And yeah, it's just very oppressive. Lots of windows where you can use it.
Yeah. Like I said, I play a lot of limited Icelander, and most of the turns are like maybe you do one thing on your turn or something, but most of the time you have an Arsenal card, and then on their turn, whatever they do, you're like, I have a response. you're like, all right, I have a response. Ice card from Arsenal, and then they have to deal with the ice
Waning
card, and then you can Waning Moon them. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well. It's like if you were to like count up how much damage Waning Moon does, because the first couple of times they moon you, you're just like, okay, yeah, I'll take 2, I'll take 3. But then the more times you do that, the bloody token weapon is mounted up to at least 15 damage. And it's just like, wow, okay. It's just incremental value over the course of the game, which is also played at random times, which really get into your head as well. So it's just like a grating card, which I just don't like seeing.
I just thought of a really sweet altar for Waning Moon and Icelander. Any Elden Ring fans out there? They should get Icelander to be Ronnie, which is character from Elden Ring, affiliated with the moon, and then get like Waning Moon altered to be one of the moon spells or something like that. Ronnie.
Oh right, yeah. I've just googled it. It's like the witch with the big massive hat. Is that right?
Yeah. And there's also Renala too, who's like her mother. I don't want to get into the lore, but Ronnie, Icelander, Waning Moon altar thing would be awesome. Just saying, altarist.
Didn't Miss Chalice do a Rani cosplay recently? Is that right?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's one of the videos or something. But
I'm pretty sure she did, but like she's all into the Elden Ring stuff now, which is great. She's become like pretty popular. Her channel like really took off, so it's been awesome to see.
The journey that she's been on's been wild, I imagine.
Yeah, she's got. I was watching her channel grow, and I was like, oh, she's coming up to my channel like size, and then she like hit my size, and then now she's got like 20 or 30,000 subs or something like that. She's doing quite well. So shout out to Miss Chalice. She's awesome. She's super, super nice.
Absolutely.
Flesh and Blood cosplayer. She cosplayed Azalea, but she mostly does Elden Ring lore content and other such lore content, which makes a lot of sense because she was on my channel. This is a weird tangent. She was on my channel, and we talked about like Flesh and Blood and stuff, but we also talked about like gaming, video games in general, and she really was into the Divinity series, like Divinity Original Sin. So that makes a lot of sense to me that she'd also be into like Elden Ring and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, small shout out to Miss Chalice. She's cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll throw it over to Bill now because I've had enough of mooning. So
yeah, well, I mean, this is one where it's not something that directly ends the game, and I think it's a card that a large portion of the community underestimated when it first came out. But especially with one of the cards on Kel's list, we got to see just the power level of what an innocuous effect like this could be with Crown of Seeds.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Like it was a lot worse when there was Starvo, of course, because right now there are only 2 heroes that can even use it, and I think it's
Briar
isn't
and
it
Oldhim.
banned in CC or something? I don't know. It's not.
It was suspended in Blitz, I thought.
Yeah,
I thought it was
Crown of
Blitz.
Seeds. FAB TCG.
But I don't remember, to be honest, because frankly, I don't play any hero that can run Crown of Seeds.
Yeah, I don't either. So I think I don't know. I'll get corrected in the comments, but anyway, that's a card that especially when Starvo was legal, I attribute a lot of Starvo's success not only to the fact that his hero ability was overtuned, but also just from the multifaceted support that he got from Crown of Seeds. It was not only incidental damage reduction, similar to something like Valiant Dynamo, where turn after turn after turn, you get to shave 1 damage off, which, of course, over a long CC game, which is what a lot of the Bravo games were, unless they high rolled you, it would sometimes save you 5, 8, 10 life, like for a singular thing. And then it was also helping you like blast through your deck to get your cards in hand that you needed to activate Bravo or to activate Starvo to then use his overtuned effect.
Just so folks know, I have found the banned and suspended information. It is Blitz. So
Okay.
It is suspended in Blitz, not technically banned. Let me find it again. Suspended until Oldhim becomes Living Legend. So specifically for Oldhim.
Specifically Oldhim, yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, it's one of the 4 cards that are suspended. The other 3 being Aether Ice Vein, Hypothermia, and Seeds of Agony.
Those all make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Hypo is kind of a fun card to.
Yeah,
just in general.
Hypothermia could very well have made it onto any of our lists, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think Azz's pick was a bigger offender, or just more salt-inducing card with Lake Frigid, but you know.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, I really like what Crown of Seeds represents, but also it is just slightly too good at everything that it does. And it isn't immediately obvious, which I think is just even more interesting.
I mean, it's a sweet card. Like, it's not like it's one of those cards, kind of like Fiendel Spring Tunic, where like if you're not really into Flesh and Blood, it's really hard to know just how good it is. Because when you're looking at it at a base level, you're like, okay, sure, I prevent like 1 damage, and I can filter a card from my arsenal. It's like it's not that exciting. But when you actually play it and use it many, many times over the course of the game, you get a lot of value from it, especially when you factor in the fact that Oldhim's defense reaction ability on his hero costs 2, so you can pitch a blue and activate his hero ability and also Crown of Seeds at the same time.
3 damage prevention, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it really, really good is with Oldhim, and which is probably why it's tied to Oldhim specifically, where like you pitch a single card and you get all this value out of it, right? Because you use his hero ability and then you use Crown of Seeds. Yeah, so it's good. It's really good.
That's a good one.
Yeah, just kind of nuts.
I mean, it's like you have this built-in value engine. Like the fact that it starts in play, like it's a piece of equipment, starts in play. You just have this built-in value engine. It's why the Tunic is so good. You have this built-in like passive resource generation, right? Yeah, it's those things. I think it's those moments. As a Flesh and Blood player, it's those moments realizing just how good these incremental value cards are. That kind of level you up as a player. Like when you realize that why the tunic is so good. Yeah, like you get one resource every 3 turns, but that resource could mean the difference between playing a card and not playing a card. So
yeah. Unless Channel Lake Frigid's out, then you can't.
yeah,
bloody
let's channel like Frigid's out. And those are the moments as a Flesh and Blood player you realize just how good taxing effects are, because
oh my god,
they're very good, very good.
How salty they can make you, which is the epiphany of this list.
Yes, well, yeah, I mean, like, as an aggro player, not super fond of the Lake Frigid. It's probably my least, to be completely honest, it's probably my least favorite card to see drop on the board across from me. It's just like it's like, oh cool, I guess I didn't want to play anyway. Like I didn't want to play anyway.
Play Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna sit here and gruff.
That's not what I came here to do.
Yeah,
I just want to sit here and watch you crack your Storm Striders while you go for Wildfire me for 29 damage.
Yeah, pitch 2, activate Voltaire, put Endless Arrow, pitch another 1, attack with the Endless Arrow, pitch 2, Razor Reflex, turn pass. Like,
brilliant.
I don't have any more resources.
I have spent 10 resources to do 4 damage. Your turn.
Yeah. All right, so moving on from that, I would like to introduce you to probably the most balanced and well-respected hero in the entire game. Weighing in at 270 pounds of pure Aryan muscle, we have Starvo! I mean, come on. We gotta talk about Starvo, man. Like, I probably use it as the thumbnail for this video. Like, Starvo is the epitome of a salt-inducing card. And that's because not only is Starvo good, Starvo is very, very good. Possibly one of the strongest heroes in the entire game. The quickest hero to hit Living Legend. He's also, like, permeated the meta so very thoroughly that I had so many people comment on videos during that time frame where they're like, I want to quit Flesh and Blood because I'm going to my armory and I'm playing 6 rounds of Starvo. Like, I'm sick of it. I don't want to play Flesh and Starvo. And that's kind of what it was. And, like, not only that, but Starvo has, like, this built-in, like, high roll mechanic. And here, let me pull up Starvo to get it exactly, because I believe there's a certain timing of it. It's like at the beginning of your turn, you may reveal cards in your hand. If you reveal a lightning, an earth, and an ice card, then your next attack gains +2, go again, and dominate. I'm pretty sure it's something like that.
So you could just keep saying words. It's like when people talk about a card that was going to end up on my list, but for one reason or another it didn't. But the boots, the boots for Runeblade, the one that like
Spellbound. Yeah, Spellbound Creepers.
Yeah, Spellbound Creepers.
Fancy boots.
Starvo and Spellbound Creepers both feel like a card where it's like, okay, if you don't know what this does, I'm going to read this card to you, and you're just going to have to believe me no matter how ridiculous it sounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
He does have one drawback. The card that you play has to cost 3 or greater to get +2 dominate and go again.
Well, of course, Guardians don't have cards that cost 3 or greater, so.
Yeah, I mean... Oh, wait, Oakenhold. Oh, that might be a good one for this. Oh, that might be a good one.
Oh, there's also a downside that you can access Earth, Ice, and Lightning cards as well.
Yeah, and so his other ability, he has Essence of Ice, Earth, and Lightning, which means he can use all of those. So not only does he have one of the biggest card pools in the entire game, being an elemental guardian hero, so he has access to all elemental cards, access to all guardian cards, and whatnot. But he also just has an insanely good high roll ability to give +2 dominate and go again to the next thing. And the thing is when it first came out, there was a lot of speculation, and it's really funny. So if you go look back on the videos of me talking about it, I was like, personally, I didn't know. I was like, this looks like it could be really strong. The ability printed on here is very strong, but I don't know how consistent it's going to be able to do this. Turns out it's pretty easy, actually. You can do it pretty consistently. And some of the people are like, this card's trash. There are multiple comments that are like, this card's unplayable. It's trash. Like, it's not very good. No, it's like one of the best heroes ever printed, if not the best hero ever printed.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
And Starvo basically kind of like ran the show when he was around, right? The meta basically centered around Starvo and decks that could be played against Starvo. It's also like, for me personally, really kind of unexciting gameplay too. It's a lot of just block, hammer, block, hammer, reveal cards from hand, dominate you, block. Like that's basically what it was. Like you do a lot of blocks, you do a lot of like shenanigans, and then you have a turn where you Oak and Old them for 11 or whatever with dominate, and be like, get wrecked. That's
those were the days.
yeah. So as Starvo, if you played Flesh and Blood during that time period, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't, you have much to look forward to in the Living Legends format, where it'll be Prism versus Chain versus Starvo versus, I don't know, maybe Briar or something. We'll see who gets Living Legends next. If it's Oldhim, oh my god, that format is going to be both really interesting and potentially incredibly, I don't want to say boring,
miserable,
but like just think about it, man. Like it's, for me, it's gonna be all Chain, because it's gonna be like Prism Turtle, Starvo Turtle, Oldhim Turtle, and then you have like Chain, who's like, I can punch you really a lot. I'm gonna punch you a lot. Let's go. All right, so yeah, Starvo. You can't talk about like the saltiest cards in Flesh and Blood without talking about Starvo.
I agree.
It's
exactly.
Yeah, when I was coming up with this list, I had some, and I'm like, you guys had other cards that I wanted to talk about, like Frigid and all this kind of stuff, and then I was like, wait a minute, I gotta put Starvo on this list, like of course, because I was thinking of like attack action cards and that kind of stuff, but oof. So
yeah,
yay, Starvo,
yay,
yay. And I think the funniest part about Starvo, the legacy of Starvo, is that now people use Starvo as like a bench line for like the Starvo treatment. Like a lot of folks are waiting for Azalea to have the Starvo treatment, and I don't know if that means that they want her to be so overpowered that she Living Legends in like 5 months or whatever, however long it took for Starvo to hit Living Legend. I'd also like to remind people before we move on that Starvo literally debuted and hit Living Legend all within the time frame of last year, before Worlds. So it came out in Everfest at the beginning of the year and hit Living Legend before Worlds even happened. Just
That's crazy.
Yep.
Just saying. Yeah. Anyway, go
just nuts.
Go ahead, Azz.
Cool. So this could be a controversial take, because this card is, I know you love this card, Cal, and that's Art of War.
Oh yes.
So yeah, I think I've just been on the receiving end of some horrible, ridiculous Art of War turns that I've just been like, sod this card.
I just realized one thing. 4 out of 5 of my cards are like all these like defensive cards that I don't like because it prevents me from punching you, and a lot of your cards are like these powerful go
Punch
wide
me harder
pump cards, like Mount Heroic and Art of War. I just think it's funny.
Yeah, it's just stuff that adds just loads of extra numbers, extra maths, and all this sort of thing, and enables just ridiculous turns. So yeah, obviously it's fantastic in Lexi. You can I've seen some, and this just makes me bitter as well, because Azalea decks don't want to use things like 3 of a Kind and Art of War, because she can't make use of like stuff like Voltaire, like we were saying earlier.
Yeah.
So seeing that on the opposite end of another Ranger player that isn't Azalea, it's just like, why can't Azalea do this stuff? I mean, yeah, she can do certain combo-y stuff like we saw with the Polish Nats top 8, but that just takes a lot of setup. Whereas with Art of War, you can just explode into massive turns with 3 of a Kinds and stuff with Ranger, with Lexi anyway. Yeah. And obviously, we all know how much work it puts in Fi as well. That's just absolutely outrageous damage output. And even things like Tiger Katsu as well, just putting in so much damage across massive go wide turns. I think I just don't like go wide decks. I don't think I like things that go excessively wide across the board. But yeah, just bad experiences all around with this card. So and every time I've tried to use it, I haven't been able to pull off what I thought it could do. So it just goes to show that some of the decks that I play just don't use it. So
see, I love go wide decks, but I'm a glutton for punishment, so I don't play like the good go wide decks. I play the ones that require you to jump through a million hoops like Lexi. I don't play the ice Lexi decks. No, I play like the weird oddball go wide Lexi decks where I'm like, nah, give me the Ranger bullshit that we have to deal with.
But that's nice though, isn't it? Again, it's another bit of bitterness as well because I can't play it in Azalea, which is my preferred Ranger. But you can do the Rain Razors, Art of War, Endless Arrows coming back to your hand and firing them again, and
that's one of the big, like, I always talk about how Ranger just has it bad. We'll see how good Ranger is going to be this year. Could be incredible, but like in order to mimic a fraction of Briar's power, we need Rain Razors and Art of War to give all of our stuff +3, but only for that one turn. We can't do it a second time. Like. That's what I'm talking about here, right? We don't just like, Mount Heroic +3 to everything. We're like, I'm going to play the Rain Razors as one card from my hand, and then I'm going to play, pitch a card, another card from my hand, play Art of War, another card either from my hand or arsenal, banish another card from my hand or arsenal to draw 2, and then maybe attack like 2 or 3 times with the +3.
Then maybe 3 of a kind and get some arrows back and stuff. And exactly that, And Channel Mount Heroics, as well, as we said, is exactly the equivalent of an Art of War plus a Rain Razors, and they both don't block either. They don't block; they're instants.
Yeah, you can block with Channel too, and Channel isn't Channel like a blue too?
Channel Mount Heroic is a red.
It's red. Okay,
it is a red.
So Frigid's a blue. Yeah. Okay, but but still, like, just to what's that meme? It's like, look what you have to do to mimic a fraction of our power.
Fraction of my power.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Oh, someone should do that. We come up with so many good memes on here. If I remember, I want to try to make that meme. Look what you have to do to match a fraction of our power.
Note it down, but.
Anyway,
I mean, I don't know. It's a card that I don't like personally, but I've just figured I'm a bit bitter that I can't use it very well in the decks that I play, and as well as that, it just turns on a lot of the sort of strategies that I don't like playing against. So it could just be me, but there we are.
It is, in my opinion, Art of War. I would say it's kind of like one of the top tier generics, but I really think that it will become even more valuable and not unanimous, but like prevalent in the Flesh and Blood scene as time goes on, because it has a very, very unique effect, and a very, very powerful effect that you can run in literally any deck. So unlike something like Art of War or even Command and Conquer or Enlightened Strike, these cards can be like outmoded by other attack actions depending on what the class is and what the talent you have. Art of War is just like, it's just super, super good, and it's modal, and it draws you cards and pumps up your stuff or gives your things go again. And then it has one other ability that lets you do some dumb stuff that no one's ever used it for, blocking with something from your arsenal. But
one of our locals had to do that at the armory this past Monday.
It's gotta feel bad.
And unfortunately did still lose because when that situation does happen to you, when it arises, that like that's something to consider. Unfortunately, you're never really in a good spot.
I think. Hold on, let me look it up. Oh wow! It actually, I just typed in Art of War and it did pop up with a Flesh and Blood card. I thought it would pop up with the book Sun Tzu's Art of War.
Book by Sun Tzu.
Yeah. I would like to note, this is true. I just wanted to double check because I thought this was true, that it gives your attack action cards +1 attack and +1 defense, but they don't have to be attacking. So you can do shenanigans, and I think I've done this before, where you block with a 5-block card, and then you give it +1 with Art of War to pop an illusionist card, like to break the phantasm. You could totally do that with Art of War, which is pretty nice. So anyway, I understand. Unfortunately, I think it's one of the cards that you're going to see like forever until it gets restricted or something, which I don't think it will. Because it's a good one. I've said this multiple times. It is my pick for the card that will surpass Command and Conquer in value. I do think over time Art of War will be more valuable than Command and Conquer because it's going to be played in more decks, and it's just as rare being from Arcane Rising, and it's got a unique effect.
Yeah.
Like eventually they'll Command and Conquer will see cards that you can play, you know, either here or there. We already have cards like Erase Face that are in that space, but yeah.
It may be good, but I hate it. Let's move on.
Oh yeah, we'll see. That's the thing. Most of the cards we're talking about, if not all of them, are very good. Like
They are very good. Yeah,
which
exactly.
is why they're so salt-inducing.
Which is why it's it's unique to everybody, isn't it? Because everybody likes and dislikes different things. So there we go.
Yeah. Hey, if they ever print an Ice Earth aggro hero, it would be Azz's worst nightmare because they can play Mount Heroic and Lake Frigid.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah,
that's a nightmare.
Aggro, imagine like aggro Oldhim or something. Oof.
Like an Ice Warrior or something. Like every attack gives you a frostbite if it hits, and all this garbage.
Oh, don't give him ideas.
Yeah.
Don't give him ideas.
Anyway.
Runeblade, Ice Earth Runeblade.
Ice Earth Runeblade Warrior hero.
Frosty. It's Frosty Briar.
Frosty the Snowman.
Briar. Winter Rose.
No,
let's get out of there. Right, let's get out of there quick before LSSC.
So my last card, I had a bunch of preamble for my other picks. I'm just gonna lead this one off with the card itself. Oakenold.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
the Oldhim specialization.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do something just because I want to. I'm gonna read this card out to the class.
Okay.
So I was thinking it was either this or Crippling Crush, because both of them have very similar effects where it's like it rips 2 cards out of your hand. They can most of the time get Dominate from one of a variety of effects. This one does require a little bit more hoops than Crippling Crush does, kind of.
I mean, you just have to be playing Starvo. That's the hoop.
You just have to be playing Starvo. So Oakenold is an attack. It's a majestic attack from Tales of Aria. It comes in red and it costs 3. Attacks for 7, blocks for 3. It rhymes. It has Earth and Ice fusion. So you can reveal an Earth and an Ice card. Notably, Pulse of Eisenloft reveals to satisfy that condition on its own.
Which is currently banned in Classic Constructed. So that's good to know.
This is true. But it also reads, if Oakenold was fused, it gains +2, Dominate, and if this hits a hero, they put 2 random cards from their hand on the bottom of their deck in any order.
Yeah.
So for me, the difference between this and Crippling Crush needs to crush. It needs to deal 4 or more damage for its effect to go off. This needs to deal 1 damage for that effect to go off at all. If it's fused, which it will have that effect if it is fused, it gains Dominate to make it even more difficult to block than Crippling Crush, which can get Dominate, but doesn't inherently have Dominate when this is at its scariest. It also gains +2, so it becomes 9 Dominate with that effect. And as Kel was saying, with Starvo, if this was the card that you were attacking with after activating Starvo's effect, it actually comes in for 11, and it has Go again.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And I think one of the biggest things too is it only costs 3 to play, right?
It only costs 3. Crippling Crush costs 9.
This stupid thing costs 3 to play, and so it has Go again. So you're just like at the bare minimum, as long as you have another blue card, which is probably your Pulse or whatever. A lot of people save it, but you can just hammer afterwards. So you just punch him for
Winter's Whale.
Punch him for 15, I think. So if you Oakenold fuse and then hammer, it's just 15. Whatever.
Yeah, and like. The thing too about Oakenold specifically is even when it's bad, it's still a 3-cost attack for 7 that is a Guardian attack. So it fits in, especially again with Starvo. Even if you're not activating it, if you're activating Starvo and somehow don't have the ability to activate Oakenold because you have to like pitch one of the fuse cards or whatever, with Starvo, it's still an attack for 9 with Go again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you follow that up with an Icy Hammer. That's still crazy.
This card has one saving grace in that it helps actually kill your opponent if you're
Yes.
playing as Oldhim, because oh my god, please let it end. Like just let it end. Kill me already. Jeez.
That's another thing as well, isn't it?
That is a
It's like-
notable upside.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got bloody Oldhim on the art, and yet Bravo can use both this and Crippling Crush, or Starvo, sorry, could both use both of these
can.
cards.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
ludicrous.
Oaken Old is one of the cards that like, how is this not just an Oldhim specialization? Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I know
don't
we
know.
had obviously Endless Winter, but
Yeah.
still, yeah,
They-
it just makes no sense, really.
They might have maybe should have swapped them around a little bit, but
Yeah.
they probably didn't. I don't know if they knew about Starvo when they printed this card.
I'd
And-
like to hope that they didn't.
Like-
Like this wasn't an intentional thing that they saddled us with.
And also like I just kind of like the name. I would always joke when I would pull an Oaken Old because it just sounds like, and also looks like it's just like old. It's just the oldest card of all time. The oldest old. It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
The oldest attack by the oldest man.
Oaken Old. He's so freaking old. Like he's gonna old you to death.
Just centuries in the swing.
He's just-
Centuries.
That's the theme of Oldhim. He has old in his name. He's gonna kill you with his old card. He's just gonna wait you out. Wait you out until you crumble to
Wait.
dust, and then I'll
Yep.
smack you.
Oh.
Yeah, I
To
mean,
me, that's again one of the cards where I just see it played against me, and my hopes of having any semblance of the game plan that I'd been working to thus far disappear. It's just gone.
Yeah.
yeah. No one's ever like they see a fused Oaken Old on the other side. And they're like, oh sweet, cool.
Nice.
Yeah, or they're
Yeah,
like,
okay.
oh, this is a card I can deal with. That is never
Yeah.
a thought that I've had against Oaken Old.
Clearly, you aren't playing enough red unmovables.
This is true. This is true. That's a callback.
yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Oh man.
I think a lot of people would agree with Oaken Old. It's funny how like some of the cards change over time too. Because remember, when Oaken Old was like no big deal at all when it first came out in Aria. Because they're like, yeah, whatever, Oldhim, whatever. And then Starvo came along, and he's like, "What's up? Like, let me show you how to play with. Let me show you how to really play with your card, Oldhim. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. This was for me.
yeah, you made this. I made this.
Pretty. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that is our top 5 or 15 cards, most saltiest cards. Most saltiest? This is the top 15 saltiest cards. Please let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. I have realized that people can actually comment on Spotify, because we've gotten a couple comments on Spotify, like answering various things. I didn't even know you could do that. So if you're
No,
one
I
of the
didn't
people
know,
doing that, that's cool. I get notifications or like, you're...
Yeah.
It always says something weird like your Q&A has people chatting, and I'm like, what Q&A? And it's just like, oh, there's a comment section. Weird.
Oh, sick.
Um,
Okay.
So shout out to the
yeah.
folks who are doing that. Please let us know
Yeah.
what your saltiest cards are. Do you agree with us? Is Starvo salty? I mean, come on. If you say Starvo's not salt inducing, I don't know, man. I don't know.
There's someone out there that absolutely loves it.
Oh
He
yeah,
loves
well, I
getting
mean,
Oaken
I
Old 3
totally
times in a row.
respect the people that liked playing it.
For
There
sure.
is, I do want to say that specifically because one of our locals, Kaylee, who's actually going to be on the EDH, the commander stream with us in like half an hour,
It will-
as
oh, yeah.
of right this very second.
It will have been last Saturday for folks watching this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, like Kaylee loves Starvo. But she also has a much different experience with Starvo. There were a lot of people that jumped on Starvo right off the hop as soon as people realized, like, oh, I can activate his ability like 80% of the time.
Yeah, it's gross.
And do that. But Kaylee jumped on Starvo as soon as he was revealed and like went through iterative process to try to figure out what the best deck was. Like there was a spreadsheet with like a GitHub thing where people were sharing it around, and it's like, this is how you figure out what the optimal split is. She didn't use that. She didn't like look at a lot of discussion, I think, like just worked on it, herself. And through that gained a really deep appreciation for the deck. And like, I totally get that. I 100% get that. It's much different from, the people that picked it up because it was the strongest deck and played it because it was the strongest deck.
Okay.
So at the very bare minimum, I just want to make sure that Kaylee feels like she's seen and that her liking Starvo is accepted and loved. But everybody else, meta slave.
Well, yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
like, unquestioned, Starvo probably the most powerful hero in the game. I could see maybe some arguments here and there for maybe Chain, maybe Prism, but Starvo definitely up there. Probably the strongest.
Well, it just goes to show like the amount of time that it took for him to Living Legend out straight away in the within months. So
yeah. And like I
Freaking
said,
immediate.
Starvo was so salt-inducing. I got many people in the comments of various videos being like, I want to quit playing Flesh and Blood because I went to the armory and played 6 rounds of Starvo. Like, I'm not going. And there will be people who are listening to this podcast who had that experience. And if you did, let us know. Let us know down below.
Yeah, let us know.
Share it. Commiserate in the comments.
Because, like, I mean, like, that's not fun. Like, for any card game, you go out and you play against the same deck that's just, like, not only is it, like,
homogenous,
very strong, but, like, as a new player, you're just going to get absolutely curb stomped. Like, ooh, like I just started playing this game. I really like this, this dash hero. Oh, Starvo.
Yeah.
Absolutely dunked.
Like, even if Starvo wasn't so high rolly, I think just if there was any hero that you saw with that much frequency, it would make you feel like less interested in the game, because then there's a very obvious, like, this is the one that people play. And especially with a game like Flesh and Blood, where there's so much availability for you to latch onto specific heroes and like them regardless of whether or not they're good, that would take a lot of the fun out of it, in my opinion. So
and like I did call Starvo high rolly, but you mentioning it too made me like think that he's not even that high rolly, man. It's like mid rolly at best. Like, he's just gonna do it.
The stuff that he does that is mid rolly is high rolly for like every other champion or for every other hero.
Yeah, like I know we bring it up a lot, but like Azalea or even like Arachne or something, like they wish they could do that. They wish they could do that like twice in the entire game. Like, that would be amazing. Like, Arachne, man, just has to jump through so many hoops just to give their things go again at all. Like, like, please, I just need go again. Please let my thing a hit. I want to react.
They need a legendary piece of equipment
and
to get go again.
You destroy it. Like, it's like once you get it once. And Starvo's just like, what's up? Yeah,
it's just you bloody you attack with your 4 damage eradicate, thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna attack react, I'm gonna give it go again and do something else, and then you're waiting for the sink below because you got a red shred in your hand, but they oasis it instead. And you're like, oh great.
Oh, that hits me right in the feels, man.
I'm hoping you right in the salty cards.
I'm hoping to cap this off, because we've been talking for like almost 2 hours now. To cap this off, I'm hoping that Outsiders helps my poor sweet little assassin class, and also Ranger too. I hope these 2 classes this year become the scourge of the meta, and then everyone you pick your salty cards are going to be from these classes that are widely seen as some of the low tier classes, with some exception. You have Ice Lexi floating around, but it's ice. It's Ice Lexi. It does ice things. And so I hope this year people are like, oh, I hate Uzuri, she's too strong, or oh, I hate Azalea, why is she so overpowered? Like,
I hate Riptide.
Trap-based
assassins are too strong.
Oh, stupid
trap break. Oh my goodness! Look at the catharsis finally.
I hope
I hate that trap card.
Fingers crossed.
Our top 5 saltiest cards for next year are going to have all of the original traps on them.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be like, God, if I never see another rock slide trap, it'll be too
rock
soon.
Slide. Oh my god, the value is unbelievable.
I will say though, I bet there are like at least a couple people out there who have like Red in the Ledger on their list as like their saltiest card, because Red in the Ledger is like, it's brutal. Like,
it's tilting.
It's like, it's what like the go wide players fear. Like, they're like, they don't want to get Red in the Ledger, like Fi or any ninja for that matter. Like,
anyone that wants to dump their hand, like Briars as well. That's what I was hoping that I'd face a lot of aggro, at the Leeds Battle Hardened, but that wasn't the case. But
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what they fear. But
I have a lot of strong opinions about like the strongest X in the game, and I think there is some discussion to be had. I think I'm open to discussion about it, but I think that Red in the Ledger is maybe the strongest on hit in the game.
oh yeah,
Like,
I think
it's
so.
dependent on matchup, but I think also just within the context of Azalea, easy access to dominate, easy access to the card itself with Knock the Death Whistle.
Easy access to dominate.
It's like as close to a consistent tutor that Flesh and Blood has.
Well, Knock the Death Whistle is legit. I mean, Azalea, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I think she has some of the best specializations in the entire game. Like, it's just like the fact that she's a ranger and has all these kind of like jank ranger cards, and you have to do everything through the ranger. Like, and then her bows have never been like super good. Like, they do their job, but it's like we talked about earlier, if she had Voltaire, I think it'd be a different story. I think Voltaire would make Azalea like quite a bit stronger.
We're going to tell that story eventually.
Yeah,
we're going to give it a go.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Like I'll literally just swap Lexi for Azalea for my no fuse deck, and then change a few cards, and it'll be sweet, man.
Yeah. See what happens. Yeah.
Oh, it'll be nice. Yeah, like
anyway, we should probably wrap this up. We have a stream to get to soon.
Yes.
Yeah, which you would have already seen at this point if you would have watched it. But yeah.
Yeah. So
which you should.
We are going to forego the Arsenal step this time because this is like 2 hours long, so we're not going to keep you waiting too much longer. We'll do an Arsenal step next week, most likely. So that has been our top 5 saltiest cards, and it's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to talk about and to exfoliate the sodium.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Can't be positive all the time.
Yeah. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for watching, everyone out there. Big shout out to my 2 co-hosts here. I'm going to swap up the order again, and we're going to go this way. We're going to talk about Bill first, so go ahead and shout out your stuff.
Absolutely. I'm Bill from the Spike Feeders. You can find me on Twitter at BillTSF, and you can also find me on YouTube at Spike Feeders Fab. We're currently in the process of releasing our, I believe our 3rd episode is probably going to go live same day as this. Although, no, I keep thinking that we're doing a weekly thing, but we're actually doing every 2 weeks, which is something that a lot of people were asking about. So I will say, because of that, when this releases, there won't be one, but when our next podcast releases, there will be another episode of the Goliath Gauntlet. Once again, that is Mechanoid Dash. It's really fun, good watch. So if that interests you, please check it out. That would mean a lot.
Yeah, definitely check it out. I am waiting for the Mechanoid to be assembled. I'm just biding my time, waiting for the Mechanoid to be assembled.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And then, of course, we have Azz from Go Again Gaming.
That's right, yeah. So I am, Azz from Go Again Gaming on Twitter. So you can find me on there, Go Again Gaming AZ. Doing a giveaway on there, actually. So make sure you're on Twitter. Make sure you're following me on there, because I'm actually giving away the Regicide playmat that was given to me by James, and he signed it at Worlds. So make sure you follow me on there and retweet and like it to potentially get one. And off of the back of that, Go Again Gaming on YouTube. I actually literally just released the unedited Worlds vlog. So it's 4 hours of content, basically, just every single GoPro video that I got from Worlds in a 4-hour Zack Schneider cut. No, I haven't done any editing. It's just literally all videos in chronological order. So that will, my biggest fans out there can just watch 4 hours of Azz. But yeah, it's on there. So have it on in the background or something if you're not doing anything. It's good fun. And yeah, Kel appears in there multiple times.
I plan to have it going in the background as I do my patron awards this weekend. That usually takes me a few hours. So I'm just gonna put that on while I sort all the 40-something packages that I need to get ready. Yeah.
Nice, appreciate it. And hopefully this year, we can get vlog footage with all of us in it.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, obviously, looking forward to that.
Yep.
Hopefully,
it's very likely going to happen. It's going to be a lot of fun. I cannot wait.
Nice. And I'll throw it over to the host today?
Hey, I'm Kel from Red Zone Rogue. If you don't know already, you can find me at Red Zone Rogue on Twitter and on Facebook and Instagram. I barely use those two, but mostly it's Twitter and YouTube. Yeah, I talk about Flesh and Blood and other card games. I love card games. That's all. It's all about the card games. I was going to mention something that Azz was talking about, but I forgot. Oh yeah, I was just going to casually mention that you probably see this in his Worlds vlog. He mentioned the Regicide playmat. I was going to be like, yeah, man, Azz and I waited in line for like 5 hours for that thing. So there's like a lot of time put into that playmat. It wasn't free.
Yeah.
Monetarily, it was free, but it cost us like hours of our life. And it's really funny. The first thing James said to me when we got there, he's like, I hope you didn't have to wait in line too long. And I said, you don't want to know. So
yeah. But it's all good news, because obviously that's the reason what we have the Living Legends podcast intro from James, because we both waited in line to see him. So, and he was happy to do that for us.
Yeah, we gotta get him to do a new one for the Living Legends when he comes on the podcast this year. That'll be cool.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll do that all in due time. Hopefully closer to Outsiders. I should email him. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Before we start rambling too much, I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.